Hey there, Evan Hirsch here. Welcome back to another episode of the Energy MD podcast, where we help you resolve your chronic fatigue, long COVID, and MCAS by finding and fixing the real root causes of your symptoms, a combination of heavy metals, chemicals, molds, infections, and trauma, what I call the toxic five. So really excited about today's episode because today we're going to be speaking with a participant in our program, and we're going to hear how they resolve their fatigue and other symptoms. So sit right back and let's jump into it. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate you taking time to give me some feedback on the program that you just went through.
Thanks.
So it's 12 months in. Can you tell us a little bit about where you were before you started the program and where you are now?
I had about 5 years of difficulty where I struggled every time I thought I had figured out what was wrong with me. I'd do a little better and then I would get worse again. And I would do a little better and get worse. And I never really could figure it out until I found your program. You're the first person that sort of put it all together into one big process and sort of made it easy and had the steps and kind of worked everything out in a systematic way. And, you know, I do feel like now there's some control over what's happening with my health and my fatigue.
And what did you find were like some of the biggest things, biggest needle movers for you during the process?
Um, the workbook to start, and putting the stuff together, I guess, and you know, having it be explained as not just one thing in abstract, having all of those things put together and saying like they're all related, and kind of the unification of all the different symptoms together. I think that was, you know, a big revelation. I think that another part that was very helpful was the meetings with you. It can be sort of again, it's still, even though you put it together, it seems very abstract sometimes. All of those things, it's sort of overwhelming. And so you really help sort of make those further connections and dial them down a little bit more, and like tie up the loose ends, so to speak, and put them together.
Cool. And a lot of people don't believe that, you know, heavy metals, chemicals, molds, and infections and trauma like all play a role in all of this. What was your experience in that? Did you feel like all of those things played a role?
I mean, yeah. And I think that it's sad because I think that I can't even get that testing generally in the medical establishment that I've known. Even when you go to the hospital, you know, you say arsenic can affect someone's heart and they could be having a heart condition. And I asked them, I said, well, do you do arsenic testing? And they're like, no, why would I do that? So, you know, even at the hospital, and they're going, we just deal with things that kill you right away, essentially was their
Right.
line. And so I think that is a huge component. And why would I want to have a bunch of chemicals that, you know, there's a huge suit for Roundup now where the class action lawsuit, all these people getting cancer, but yet they're not testing everyone else. And I had tons of Roundup in me.
Right.
So even though I haven't gotten cancer yet, it would be nice to get rid of it before I have cancer.
Right. Yeah, I agree. And so what do you feel like were some of the objections that you had coming into the program initially? Do you recall? Do you remember?
Anxieties or like things that made me nervous about the program, or
Yeah, like where you were like, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this program because.
uh, well, to be honest, for me, when I saw, which I know this doesn't make any sense to what we're doing right now, but when I saw a bunch of testimonials, that sort of made me feel as though, you know, who knows who's on those testimonials. I always feel like that's a scam review, like on Amazon, all those reviews from people that repost stuff, and they just write on their own product, like this is a great product, blah, blah. And then you look down, it's the same review 27 times, you know? So I don't trust reviews at all. And I always just think that's a marketing ploy. And so when I saw a bunch of reviews, I said, ooh, why are there reviews on this from people? That made me scared, because some of the way in which it's marketing are in those habits of marketing. It's like it seemed less like a doctor and more like a sales program. And that sort of made me nervous in the beginning. Like I was like, I didn't think you were really a doctor, sorry. Trying to give you an honest view here. It's hard looking at you. At the
No,
same
I I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I totally get that. And in terms of, I preach a lot about being available, being in the community and on the group calls and stuff like that. Is that true? Do you feel like I was available? I answered your questions in an expeditious fashion?
Yeah, yep, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that, it's hard because I think more than a regular doctor would, that's for sure. You have no access. Essentially, it's impossible to call your traditional doctor, right? You can't get a hold of them hardly at all, and you have to wait for a huge appointment. So on that scale, yes, there's no comparison. Like, is it sometimes frustrating? You go on the thing, and yet, you believe me, 2 days sometimes feels like an eternity when you're freaking out. But on the other hand, in perspective, that's way better than I would normally ever get. So, I do appreciate it. That's why I stuttered a little bit in the beginning, because it really, when you look at it as a whole, you say, that's great. I can get my questions answered. And I think the difference too is that when I started, there was no direct message option. And I think that would have been a big difference for me. It would have made me feel 100% more comfortable with the program, because I always felt like I didn't like that everything is like, you have to be in this forum and telling everybody on a recorded, open forum that is now going to be, used one day for some train AI, and they'll essentially be able to recreate who I am anyway, just by verbiage. So, that makes me incredibly nervous. I also wish that and talking about objection, I wish that there was a thing where it destroyed your forum stuff after a certain period of time. Like you had an option after 90 days to trash your comments on the forum so that you didn't have to have all your personal data out there forever. It would have made me feel a lot more secure with the program and with the whole thing. I mean, that always was a big concern for me.
That's definitely good feedback. What do you feel like, and so besides that, what do you feel like that I can do better to improve the program, improve support?
Well, I will say that the first thing is that I'll commend you. Like I said in the past, it's amazing how willing you are to change and update the program. I can't overstate that. Like over anything else I say, I think that's the most important part, because it's always like the minute anybody, including myself, has something to say, it's like, oh, we'll fix it, or we'll finish it, or I'll figure it out, or there'll be some change. Like, it's amazing. It's never like, well, that's just the way we do it, ever. And so that it's kind of a little amazing. So any little other thing is sort of like a nitpick almost, because everything is open for flux. And so for me, again, it's just those things. Like, I think it's the either direct messaging, or it's being more anonymity in terms of the forum. I felt pressured in the beginning to sort of like put my name or to have more information about myself, which I wish that it said, you can be your own person in the beginning. Like, you don't be forced to be yourself. You can be Bob Belita. It doesn't matter who you are. Who cares? And that's the same thing even on the calls. When I would go into the group calls, I always sort of felt pressured to put my camera on and then be part of that. And again, there's no way to be anonymous. It should be like, I don't know how you would do it, but just like maybe have like a picture of something else come up or something, and that could be that person's icon. And who that person is, by their icon that comes on, instead of having to see their face and talk. And then you'd be able to say like, hey, hi, Bob, and that person's icon will be on, and everyone would know them as that. And then you could feel like you're anonymous. like, I always felt like I was sort of forced to participate, like my likeness and my image and my my information, essentially. And then I always wonder, like, where does that information go, essentially? Like I said, where's that form going to go?
Right.
What is that used for? And maybe if you had a stronger privacy policy that's sort of stated right in the beginning, like, hey, we're never going to sell this data. We will never use it. It will never be used for that. And it will be destroyed after so many days. Like, you are 100% safe. Please don't ever put your identity if you don't feel comfortable doing so. Something like that. Like, that really, like, I regretted that I put Ryan P on the thing, but I felt pressured to. And then once I did it, I'm like, I'm already on there and I already have my thing. What am I going to completely change? Like, people later, like Alex just told me, oh no, you can change your name. But I'm like, what am I going to do that now? After 2 weeks, I already had that. Like, that looks really suspicious. And then it just made me really anxious. And like, I feel like in the beginning, I just wish someone had said to me, hey, don't do that. Like, just be whoever you want.
Right.
You don't have to be you.
Yeah, that's good feedback. We have that in some places right now, but I think we added in after you came in, and it's very possible also that it needs to be in more places, because there's no problem with doing that, with using a different name and increasing your privacy that way. So I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah.
All right, I think, and would you recommend the program to other people who have fatigue and mystery symptoms?
Yes, and I have. I'm trying. I'm pushing. But honestly, I feel as though until it's over for me, and I feel as though it's less of a sales pitch for somebody. I'm feeling better, but you're not 100%. Like, because a bunch of people have been interested. And they're like, well, you're still having some issues though, right? And so I think that as I continue to, get better, I think that it'd be easier to endorse the program or have other people follow. You know what I mean? But until I'm actually at that point, I feel like there's always that, like, well, but you're not really, kind of thing. So
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. You're at 12 months. And there's a couple of lingering things that you want to continue to work on. And so, a lot of people have the expectation, because it's a 12-month program, that they want to be better. And I want them to be better in 12 months. But the reality is that it's always like a minimum of 12 months. Hopefully it's going to be 12 months, but sometimes it's got to be a little bit longer than that. And so some of it is the trust that you have in me, and knowing that, okay, there's still some things that we haven't dealt with, seeing how I deal with things, knowing you have a partner in this, somebody who's going to work on this with you, who has the knowledge base that can get you where you want to go. So hopefully that's, but it sounds like you've got that perspective at this point.
Yeah, and I would also say one nice thing that I thought once or twice, I guess, maybe you saw that I wasn't posting, or that maybe I felt nervous about the thing. You like reached out to me and were just like, is everything okay? And I thought that was really nice. And I really appreciated that, like, little bit of I don't know, energy or effort or whatever you want to call that, like reaching out. It went a long way with me to feeling like you cared, or like there was some extra level of trust or support or something like that. It wasn't just like, you're just part of this program and it is what it is.
Right.
So I would say that's another positive thing. It's hard to find too many negative things, honestly. I have more positive things to say, I guess.
Well, I appreciate that, because I know that you are, you're very intelligent and you're very discriminating. So if you don't have a lot of negative things to say, then I think we're doing all right.
No, yeah, I think, I mean, I think you're doing great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
appreciate the feedback. Always good to see you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
So if you have chronic fatigue, long COVID, or mast cell activation syndrome, and you're looking for help, check us out at energymdmethod.com. We have a program for almost every single budget, and we're here to help. I hope you learned something on today's podcast. If you did, please share it with your friends and family and leave us a 5-star review on iTunes. It's really helpful for getting this information out to more people who desperately need it. Sharing all the experts I know and love and the powerful tips I have is one of my absolute favorite things to do. Thanks for being part of my community. Just a reminder, this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional care by a doctor or other qualified medical professional. It is provided with the understanding that it does not constitute medical or other professional advice or services. Thanks for listening and have an amazing day.